It feels like something is happening to reality, as if the world sometimes freezes. Sometimes perfectly even squares and lines appear in the sky. Sometimes people and animals freeze in unnatural poses. And sometimes things happen that should not exist at all. Shadows without a person, objects moving on their own, and strange glowing orbs. And the creepiest part is that these are not staged shots. These are videos that accidentally got caught on camera, from intercoms, surveillance cameras, passersby's phones, and a lot of it still has not been properly explained by anyone. Today on TopFacts, a huge compilation of the strangest moments from our episodes, glitches in the Matrix, unexplained phenomena, paranormal footage, and events 1 in a million that genuinely make your skin crawl. Watch until the end. The most impossible thing we, as always, saved for last. Enjoy the viewing. One evening in Toronto, 2 enormous glowing circles appeared, hovering side by side. They were so bright that they seemed unreal. Small beams of light along their edges glided smoothly, as if showing some kind of hypnotic illumination. For some, it caused delight. For others, fear. What if it is not an optical illusion at all, but, for example, an entrance to another dimension? One of the most controversial videos is circulating online, supposedly filmed in rural Canada in 2021. It shows something round and fiery, somewhat resembling our sun, but tongues of flame seem to dance around it. Suddenly, this object explodes, leaving behind a blinding flash. Some say it is all a clever video fake. Others are sure that the camera accidentally captured something happening in another galaxy. In the darkness of the night sky, a spiral appeared, like a rotating funnel. As people stared, it became clear, in the center, as if a tiny opening had appeared, from which blinding white energy began to pour. Many people suggested that it was a portal to distant corners of space, or a pass for alien guests. But what it really was, a mystery. At night over southwestern Australia, a dazzlingly bright meteor streaked by, flying at an incredible speed of about 20 kilometers per second. Scientists from the university began searching for possible fragments to learn more about the history of the formation of the solar system. Such natural fireworks show us how dynamic and full of surprises space is. This happened in China on the 16th of February, in the year 2025. The evening seemed normal until strange glowing objects suddenly flared up in the sky. Panic began. People fled, but some stayed to film this moment. Otherwise, no one would have believed that something like this could happen. Later, experts said in the news that these objects were falling meteorites. I think no one would want to meet them on the ground. Early in the morning in Colombia, a man witnessed a strange phenomenon in the sky. He wanted to film the mountains at dawn when suddenly a bright light appeared from beyond the horizon and began to drift across the sky like a jellyfish. The object shimmered blue, orange, and other luminescent colors and formed spiral patterns. Although the author of the video was a professional photographer, even he was stunned because he had never filmed phenomena like this. Later, he shared the video on Instagram to ask the viewers' opinion, but they were also bewildered. Have you ever encountered this phenomenon? Just a year ago, a man was driving through a forest in Siberia, and his attention was caught by a strange object on a snowy field. The sphere seemed to have fallen from the sky and landed some distance away from him. He drove a little further, stopped the car, and began filming the ball, which glowed pink, orange, and gray. The video went viral on TikTok and sparked many theories that it could be a UFO, but no official explanation ever appeared. What do you think it is? A few months ago in Saudi Arabia, an unusual phenomenon occurred. Pilgrims were performing religious rituals when a bright glowing object suddenly appeared above the mosque. At first, it looked like a luminous ball that moved smoothly along the ground direction, which shocked many witnesses. The object continued descending, but then suddenly disappeared. People everywhere pointed at the sky, Some filmed what was happening on their phones. They were puzzled. It was unclear whether they had witnessed a natural phenomenon or something far more alarming. Later, local authorities published a statement explaining that the mysterious light was actually the result of a missile interception. Perhaps you have seen many clips of UFO sightings, but the one we will show now truly stands out from all the others. A fisherman was filming reconnaissance planes flying over the Atlantic Ocean and accidentally captured two strange, shapeless objects. They hovered in the sky and then suddenly disappeared. Only by the splash of the waves do we understand that they dove into the ocean. What makes this video even more mysterious is that the planes were chasing them. But before they could get close, the objects dove into the ocean and never surfaced again. Online, debates began about whether these could have been UFOs. But UFOs are supposed to fly in the sky. How could they also move so freely on the water? Were these some kind of advanced amphibious aircraft, or something even more frightening? No one knows the answer. A man was exploring a desert in Saudi Arabia, and he managed to discover something atypical there, hidden under the sand. He brushed away a layer of sand with his hand and, to his surprise, found snow beneath it. Impressed by the phenomenon, he recorded a video as a keepsake and asked local residents about it. They explained that this happens rarely when a snowstorm is followed by a sandstorm that brings sand from arid regions. It covers the snow, and we see something that looks like an ice cream bar, right? Two friends were skiing at the American mountain resort of Alta when they encountered a strange phenomenon. Tongues of flame were bursting prima out of the snow. Snow and fire together look unnatural, but they saw it with their own eyes and filmed it so that we would believe it was true. The friends tried to put out the flames by covering them with snow, but the fire did not die down. Later, when they reported it to the resort staff, they called the police and specialists, who discovered a natural gas deposit under the snow. Local residents discovered something truly strange on the Liaohe River in the Chinese province of Liaoning. It was a smooth circle of ice that formed on the frozen river. The most amazing part was that it slowly rotated all by itself, yet it was stable enough to support the weight of dozens of people standing on it. It felt as if it were a disc with a motor inside, not just a chunk of ice floating on the water. In the year 2020, a tourist visiting the island of Hailuoto in Finland noticed something strange on the beach. Instead of ordinary waves and sand, the entire shoreline was covered with thousands of round ice balls, looking like giant eggs or frozen spheres. Amazed by the scene, the tourist decided to film it. Later, experts explained that strong wind, waves, and low temperatures can roll pieces of ice, gradually giving them a spherical shape. But the result of the natural phenomenon truly looked like something from another planet. People around the world are discussing strange phenomena in the sky. In this footage, filmed by a surveillance camera in Western Australia, unusual particles can be seen floating in the air. They look like snow, but the results of analyzing samples of these particles turned out to be shocking. Dangerous chemical substances were found in them. Health experts claim that these unusual precipitations, in the form of fog or snowfall, are not normal and fall due to climate change and the gradual destruction of the ozone layer. Truly alarming, is it not? Scientists always strive to discover something outstanding, and here's an unusual phenomenon in that spirit that was captured over the Château de Bénouge Castle in France. On the 19th of October, in the year 2025, a scientist and astrophotographer observed in the sky a phenomenon known as red sprites. These strange flashes of red light that flicker in the sky for several seconds are a type of electrical discharge of cold plasma in the mesosphere and thermosphere, high above thunderstorm clouds. They are caused by powerful positive lightning discharges between the cloud and the ground. which create intense electric fields. These fields make atmospheric nitrogen and oxygen flare up in the sky and glow red and orange, almost like jellyfish. The candles, meaning the vertical columns of light and sprites, reach 20 kilometers in height. Can you imagine a column like that? This strange incident happened on the 22nd of May, in the year 2025, in California, in San Diego, on Murphy Canyon Road. People ran out of their homes after hearing a loud sound like an explosion or an impact. Almost everything was in disarray. A truck crashed into a house, as if it had fallen from the sky. Glass shards were scattered everywhere. Trees were knocked down, and pieces of metal were strewn around. People called 911, and then reporters arrived. But all of them had to guess what happened. Many theories appeared. Someone said it could have been a UFO that made a hard landing, but the authorities did not confirm anything like that. But whatever it was, there was clearly a crash here. It frightened everyone and made viewers rack their brains over these frames. By the way, what do you know about this case? An unidentified celestial phenomenon was observed by a man who was flying from Moscow to Alaska. He looked out the window and suddenly saw the night sky light up with unusual movement. Glowing objects were near the plane in the sky, moving toward the Earth. They flashed and seemed to be traveling at a very high speed, but then suddenly disappeared, as if they had never been there. When he shared the video on social media, viewers' opinions were divided. Some believed it was a UFO, others thought it was just shooting stars. For some reason, no one mentioned comets or meteorites. And what would you say? One night, Navy servicemen were patrolling the sea not far from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, when they ran into something strange. They noticed suspicious glowing objects floating underwater. The objects were moving, and the water around them shimmered with very bright luminescent glow. They had never seen anything like it in the sea before. When the boat came closer, they still could not determine what the objects were. At first they took them for submarines, but after consulting their department, it turned out that at that moment there were no underwater objects in that area. So what were those spots? Some marine creature or something much more sinister? On the 2nd of June in the year 2025, a woman captured a strange moment, this time over Florida. She filmed a mysterious spherical object hovering in the sky, resembling the sun. She was stunned because it was already 7 o'clock in the evening. Sunset had passed, and the moon had also appeared in the sky, meaning the mysterious object could be neither the sun nor the moon. Maybe some other planet sent us its projection? One day, a Korean farmer was working in a field in his village called Ginkgo. But when he raised his eyes, he froze in place. 3 suns were shining brightly in the sky at once, and he thought he had overheated, or that he was imagining it. The glowing object formed a triangle. It is clearly visible in the video, so everyone became convinced that it was not just double vision. Other villagers also pointed at the sky. He was not the only one who saw 3 suns, but none of them understood what was happening up there. A strange video filmed in Philadelphia in the year 2015 shows a transparent object hovering in the sky. Everyone who saw this astonishing cloud claimed that something inside this amorphous structure was glowing or shimmering. It seemed to them that the object was purposefully moving toward a destination. It did look like a cloud, but the mystery was the glassy light inside it. The object moved slowly and completely separately. It was not a bank of clouds. Observers proposed many theories. Some said it was a plastic bag, but they could not explain how a plastic bag could glow in the sky. Others claimed it could be a disguised airplane or a UFO. Despite all the assumptions, the mystery of this cloud remains unsolved. A group of friends was heading out for lunch when they noticed a small bird sitting on their car. The strange part was that it was making unusual sounds, as if it were trying to deliver a message in a bizarre language that was half human and half bird. They were stunned and started recording, and soon the little bird even began imitating one of the girls. Later, when they finally drove away, something unpleasant happened to them on the road. They were robbed. After that, no one doubted that the bird had been warning them about possible danger and cautioning them against the trip. And do you believe in messages like that? In the year 2023, in Brazil, a man was filming the gloomy weather in Salvador when something strange happened. Low, growling sounds suddenly spread across the sky, as if something were roaring high up among the clouds. They were so creepy, as though they were coming straight from hell. A few days later, residents of New Jersey reported strange, booming sounds coming from their radios. It is hard to believe in incidents like this, but the fact is that they happen all over the world. This leads many people to think that something alarming is approaching us. Perhaps we do not have long to wait until the end of the world. This video is proof for those who do not believe in the approaching end of the world. It was posted by a group of fishermen who caught a large fish off the coast of the Indian state of Tamil Nadu. The creature really looked like an oarfish, or ribbonfish, which usually lives in deep water regions. However, in recent years, they have begun appearing in shallow waters in different parts of the world, which has made local residents believe that something apocalyptic is approaching. Old-timers call the oarfish the doomsday fish. According to Asian folklore, the appearance of this rare deep-sea creature on the surface of the ocean is a bad sign. Environmental experts claim that it is not about mysticism, but about the poor condition of the ocean environment. Something is forcing these creatures to leave their habitat. Among the many unusual sky phenomena captured on camera, this story from Palestine stands out especially. A man stepped outside on a cloudy day when his attention was drawn to a rounded formation in the sky, resembling a smoke ring shape, and it was moving through the air quite quickly. Local residents were amazed by the sight and began filming it. When the recording appeared online, some viewers considered the ring an ordinary cloud formation or exhaust from an explosion, while others linked it to the coming of Jesus Christ as a sign that he was going to help the suffering people in Palestine. But I would like to know your opinion about this. And now we will be convinced that some messages do not need interpretation. They are stated clearer than clear. On a sunny day in a small town in the state of Texas, people went outside to enjoy the clean blue sky. Suddenly, someone pointed upward, and it turned out that a mysterious inscription was hanging over the town. White letters were clearly visible right in the clouds. "Find the truth." Those words hung in the middle of the clear sky, bright and sharp, as if written by an invisible hand. People, of course, pulled out their phones and started filming the inscription. Someone joked that it was another advertising stunt by some bank or company, and someone else felt a mystical chill. A few minutes later, the message disappeared by itself, as if it dissolved, but people were still wondering what truth they needed to find and who wrote those letters. Aliens or God? In the city of Makassar in Indonesia, a man was heading to his car to go to work, but his steps stopped when he saw this. Rain was falling only on his car, and the rest of the area was completely dry. It seemed that nature had shown mercy only to his car, since in some cultures, rain is considered a blessing. Surprised, he captured this moment on video and waited until the rain stopped. When he got home, he showed the video to his father, who was a meteorologist, and he explained that he was lucky enough to observe a natural phenomenon called localized rain. On the 20th of December in the year 2021, a strange weather phenomenon was filmed by a woman in Nova Scotia, in Halifax. She was getting ready to go to work and looked outside. She saw that it was raining and went back into the house for an umbrella. But when she glanced into the backyard, she discovered that it was completely covered in snow. Amazed, She recorded the paradox on video and shared the footage online. Naturally, some viewers assumed it was a hoax, where two videos were combined into one to mislead people and attract views. But do not rush to accuse the author of the video. The rare weather phenomenon was assessed by experts as ultra-local rain, in which precipitation is concentrated on a very small area, literally on a tiny patch, leaving the surrounding area untouched. This incredible moment was captured by a man on Ocean Drive in Miami, Florida. The whole sky was covered with clouds, but it looked almost unreal. One part of it was orange, and the other was dark gray, with a clear boundary in the middle. This rare phenomenon is called a split sunset. It happens when the shadow from a large cloud below the horizon prevents sunlight from reaching the clouds that are closer to the observer on the ground. The gray side is the area where sunlight is blocked by the shadow of the distant cloud, while the bright side of the sky shows the typical colors of sunset. Five years ago, over the Chinese city of Jiang'an, a strange phenomenon appeared that amazed everyone. A gigantic mirage, resembling an aerial castle, formed high in the sky, as if a portal had opened there. The townspeople could look into another world. When this video began spreading online, some claimed it was made using computer graphics, while others insisted it was simply an optical illusion. What do you think? Is it deception of vision, or a parallel reality that nature decided to open to our eyes? A tourist captured this incredible moment in the Chinese province of Zhejiang. At first, the river was flowing calmly, when suddenly a strange pattern of waves appeared on the surface of the water. He curiously asked one of the locals, who said that in fact, the Qiantang River is known for its fish scales. Such a wave is called a tidal bore. It is notable because it lies across the current, forming powerful ridges. A natural phenomenon in which a tidal wave forms spiral-like waves creates a shocking optical illusion. From afar, the waves on the surface of the water look like shimmering fish scales. This largest tidal wave in the world is known as the Silver Dragon, and it comes annually. It forms in a narrow estuary due to the tide. A powerful wall of water during the Mid-Autumn Festival attracts thousands of tourists. In October, in the year 2025, while visiting the state of Karnataka in India, a tourist was shocked by the sight of hundreds of stones decorated with strange patterns. Shapes of various animals were carved on the stone boulders. Out of curiosity, he asked the guide, who told him about secret stones sacred to Hindus. They are called Shivalingams and serve as a symbol of worship of the Hindu god Shiva, embodying the divine creative force. The place where the tourist ended up is known precisely as Sahasralinga, a pilgrimage site. Thousands of such stones are scattered across the rocks along the banks of the Shalmala River here. It has been historically established that all these Shiva lingams were created during the reign of King Sadashivaraya in the period from the year 1678 to the year 1718.
Yeah.
A group of friends decided to do some exploration and went to investigate the outskirts of a city in North America when they came across a strange patch of ground that moved like a waterbed. They walked on it. The earth shifted under them, as if water was trapped beneath the grass. One of them recorded a video and posted it online, asking what this phenomenon was. Viewers explained that this happens when a puddle of water accumulates under the surface of the grass, forming a loose and boggy mass. This often occurs after heavy rains or abundant irrigation and can happen on newly grown grass, as well as in places with poor drainage or compacted soil. Sometimes it may indicate an irrigation leak or plastic buried in the ground. A man in Japan was driving a car when he noticed that the sidewalk began to move. He stopped and captured this breathtaking moment. It looked as if the earth itself was breathing. The pavement slightly rose and then fell again. Astonished by what he saw, he watched what was happening for some time until the ground returned to normal, after which he quickly shared the video on Instagram. Now his followers are wondering what made the solid surface rhythmically rise and fall. And what will you say? Share with us in the comments. Around midnight, a surveillance camera captured an unusual incident in a cornfield in the American state of Illinois. In the center of the field, a perfect circle formed by itself. The plants simply lay down, and inside, there was emptiness. At that moment, there was no wind, so the circle on the ground could not be explained simply by weather conditions. And could wind create such a perfect shape? I think that is practically impossible. The next morning, when the farmer went to check his fields, he was stunned by what he saw. Then, he checked the surveillance camera recordings but did not find any signs that someone or something had created this pattern. Later, he heard reports of UFO sightings in the area and began to suspect that aliens could be responsible for the mysterious formation. I suppose that is the most acceptable explanation. Perhaps some kind of transport invisible to us landed here. Early in the morning in eastern Australia, an elderly couple from the town of Ipswich in Queensland was still sleeping peacefully at home when a neighbor rang the doorbell and reported that a huge sinkhole had formed in their yard. They went to check and saw that the hole in the ground was rapidly expanding, and it was already completely filled with water. They assumed that perhaps a drainage pipe was leaking, which caused the ground to collapse. A repair crew was called, and according to their assumption, the ground failure happened because a tunnel had been built under this area many years ago. Loggers were working in the Amazon forests, but they did not expect to see something astonishing. According to them, they were cutting a tree, and when the chainsaw drove into the trunk, water suddenly gushed out of it, with such force that it seemed as if they had opened a water tap. After some time, the flow stopped, and they were able to finish the work. Out of curiosity, the workers shared the video on Instagram, where one commenter suggested that it could be a rare type of tree capable of accumulating water in its trunk to survive dry weather. Whatever it was, it left the eyewitnesses completely bewildered. On the 28th of April, in the year 2023, in the capital of Kenya, Nairobi, a strange event occurred. A powerful earthquake shook part of the African continent. A wide crack appeared in the ground with a depth of about 15 meters and a width of about 20 meters. Scientists say this happened due to heavy rains and erosion of the soil layer. The crack was eventually filled with earth and traffic resumed. But scientists also warned that if such earthquakes continue, Africa may one day split into two separate continents. Was it a natural geological process or a warning from the Earth itself? Decide for yourself. A group of friends in Dubai went on a desert safari. There they came across a strange sight. Some unpleasant dark liquid was flowing through the sand. Out of curiosity, they came closer and, by the smell, realized it was real crude oil. It was seeping out of the ground and ran like a river, forming a large puddle. Later, the travelers reported it to the authorities and, without realizing it, became the initiators of the discovery of a new oil field in Dubai.
It's grub time!
2 years ago, one woman observed a strange moment on her bird farm. She came to scatter grain, and suddenly, something unusual happened. When she entered the cage, the quails first ran, and then suddenly froze in place like statues. She was amazed by what she saw and asked her husband about the strange behavior of the birds. He explained that birds sometimes become motionless to avoid the attention of predators and to conserve energy when they are tired or during times when they do not have enough food. A few months ago in Houston, Texas, a strange but rather funny case happened. A woman came back home and was shocked to see chicks wandering around her kitchen. At first, she did not understand where they came from. All the windows and doors in the house were locked. Then she noticed an egg tray and broken shells. Then she remembered that the eggs had been lying in the sun for a long time, and that July day was very hot. And what do you think? Is there some kind of mysticism here? In any case, better live chicks than spoiled products, right? Imagine that you spent millions of rubles on a luxury car, and one fine day, you discover that it's suddenly blistered. A similar incident occurred on the 8th of June in the year 2024 in China, where people saw their cars melting in the sun and the paint swelling into huge bubbles on the body. The strangest part was that it happened not to one car, but to hundreds. All of them were parked under direct sunlight. Was the cause extreme heat, or is it the result of negligence by car companies? Poor quality manufacturing? Has your car ever blistered? Share with us in the comments. Imagine waking up on an ordinary day and discovering that your whole house is covered with insects. Such a case happened in Russia, in the resort city of Sochi. A woman woke up early in the morning and was shocked to see that everything inside the house was literally plastered with insects. They covered the curtains, the furniture, all objects in a thick layer, and what was even worse was their smell, which they used to protect themselves from predators and chemicals. Later, the woman called a pest control service, and a crew arrived to rid her house of the insects. In my opinion, a perfectly fitting plot for a thriller, do you not think? A group of botany students was working on studying rare plants found in different corners of the earth. One day they went to explore an ancient forest in the Chinese province of Yunnan and came across a tiny, unusual plant that looked like a microphone sticking out of a pile of fallen leaves. It looked like white crystals, and the most interesting thing about it was that this plant, as it turned out, does not produce its own food through photosynthesis from sunlight, but is parasitic. It survives by taking energy from the tree it is attached to. The students documented the find and included it in their thesis, classifying it as a ghost plant. Its botanical name is the one-flowered wintergreen, a rare parasitic plant lacking chlorophyll, which is why it is colorless, just like a ghost. A marine biologist studying sea life in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean noticed that a strange floating creature was heading toward him. It had tentacles, like a jellyfish. But the most remarkable thing was that it glowed in all the colors of the rainbow, a mix of bright red, blue, and green, as if it were an illumination, not a living creature. Even though the man was a marine biologist, he had never seen anything like it before. When he returned, he asked more experienced colleagues about it, and they determined that he had encountered a crystal jellyfish. It is famous for the fact that the fluorescent protein discovered inside it revolutionized biology, allowing scientists to track molecular processes in living cells. These jellyfish create their own glow as a defense mechanism against predators or to attract prey, as well as for communication. The chemical component of their glow is known as luciferin. I would even give this jellyfish a non-scientific name, an underwater disco. On the 29th of August in the year 2022, a man was walking his dog on a beach in California when he saw a scattering of thousands of strange objects on the shore. Shell fragments and remnants of marine fossils had been thrown onto the beach. He was stunned by what he saw and filmed it. Later, a group of people collected some of the objects, examined them, and someone determined that most of them were so-called barnacles. Their calcareous shells with a striped pattern resemble miniature volcanoes. Perhaps they were torn off the rocks by a sea storm or strong waves. A few months ago, people were relaxing on Diani Beach in Kenya when a strange object washed ashore. A giant cylindrical black mass was completely covered with tires. Witnesses began filming it. The most intrigued of them shared the recording on social media and asked viewers to guess what it was. None of those present had ever seen anything like it before. One commenter determined that they were looking at an air-filled marine fender known as a Yokohama fender, apparently named after a famous tire brand. These structures protect ships from collisions with the pier during storms and wind. So there is nothing supernatural in them, just an unusual construction. We also observe cloud phenomena of gods. Where would they come from if not from the heavens? Once, on a clear day, witnesses captured a strange form of clouds in the sky. Above them, suspended in the sky, a huge figure appeared, woven from glowing mist. It seemed that it was moving slowly, but purposefully. It did not drift like clouds, but seemed to have its own direction. Its outlines became clearer and clearer, and this made observers shudder. Someone saw a spiritual sign in the figure. Agree, given what is happening in the world, such encounters are becoming harder and harder to write off as optical illusions or hoaxes. Of course, our consciousness tends to supplement familiar images, but you will not deny that this figure is not just a cloud. It really resembles the well-known silhouette of Christ. At a seaside resort in Israel, a man was filming the coastline, and suddenly from afar noticed a person sitting alone on the sand. The figure looked ordinary, but when he zoomed in, its appearance struck him to the depths of his soul. The very posture and look of that person strongly resembled traditional images of Jesus Christ. It was surprising, but the video that appeared later from another source became a more alarming signal. In the same region, during a spiritual gathering, witnesses filmed an incredible phenomenon, a glowing figure that moved above the water as if walking on it. Is it not too many coincidences? It was not smoke and not fog, but a silhouette that silently floated over the place where the sacred ceremony was being held, and it also resembled an image of Christ. Everyone sees their own God, even in clouds. In the Indian city of Tirupati, a driver, raising his eyes to the horizon, noticed something unusual. The clouds above the city formed a clear silhouette of the Hindu deity Vishnu. The figure in the sky remained completely motionless. Sitting in a contemplative pose, it seemed to be watching what was happening below. People who happened to be nearby stopped in bewilderment, not knowing whether it was an optical illusion or a natural cloud formation that had taken a bizarre shape. But, as you yourself can see, the shape of these clouds was not like the others. Their clarity and correspondence to the image made many think that this is a phenomenon of a spiritual nature, an important sign that appeared at the right moment in the right place. Miracles like the heavenly ones can also be found on Earth. An explorer, entering a cave far from civilization, expected to see darkness and silence. But instead, deep inside the corridor, he found a motionless seated figure surrounded by a bright white light. By the silhouette, the figure resembled a human, but an inexplicably bright light emanated from it, which did not flicker and did not reflect off the walls like from a flashlight, but seemed to come directly from the figure itself. The person filming whispered in shock, "I am not sure whether I have witnessed some spiritual moment or something like that." Perhaps he discovered for us what no one should ever have seen. Imagine what it is like to make such a discovery in a place untouched by technology. This story begins with a solitary green light quietly hanging in the night sky. It does not blink and does not move away, it just shines. But then a second light slowly appears from it. It moves away as if it has its own intentions. Witnesses desperately try to film this event and keep both lights in the frame. For several minutes, both objects silently hover above their heads before completely disappearing. Need we say that observers were momentarily struck speechless? And how would you perceive something like that if you were there? Where green lights flicker, there may well be little green men. During a solitary walk through the forest, a woman suddenly stopped by a large fallen tree. Her glad was caught by movement, deep inside a crevice. She took out her phone and began filming. A tiny figure was looking at her from a hollow. A long, narrow head and glowing eyes gave it an unnatural appearance. No known animal could look and behave like that. The creature also cautiously peered out from the depths, not trying to hide or run away. It seems it behaved quite meaningfully, as if it possessed intelligence. The woman posted the video on the internet to find authors of similar stories. Who knows? Maybe some creatures live in forests so close to our homes, and we do not even suspect it. Not all visions can be written off as aliens. The world is full of fairy tale characters that we created ourselves. During a family trip to the Scottish Highlands, travelers met a small ball of fur on the road. Naturally, this sight made them stop and immediately start filming. When the video was published on the internet, viewers noticed that it matches the description of the legendary wild haggis. These are fictional creatures allegedly living in the mountains of Scotland. As they say, their front and back legs are different lengths, which allows them to easily climb the hilly terrain. But no one had ever encountered them so close as to capture them on camera. Here is an example of how harmless-looking creatures can make people doubt reality. Have you had a case when you did not believe your own eyes? Share with us in the comments. Sometimes ordinary animals behave as if they want to tell us something. A family was vacationing in a mountainous area, and now we will watch what the surveillance camera recorded. Apparently, it is installed here not by accident, because of uninvited visitors to the resort. No one expected that in broad daylight, a wild animal, similar to a very tall fox or a red wolf, would calmly climb the stairs to the house. Without haste or panic, the beast rushed to the leftovers of food that, for some reason, were left on a piece of cardboard right at the entrance. The wolf examined the food and ate right on the spot, and then calmly left. Have you ever seen a wolf with such long legs? And indeed, this is an unusual creature, the maned wolf, or gurrah. It has a narrow, long muzzle and a bright red coloration like a fox, but at the same time, very long, graceful legs, which gives it a resemblance to a hunting dog. No wonder an animal with a sharp sense of smell caught the treat from a distance. And since it knows the way, it is not afraid to come here. Perhaps this was not the first visit. That is how a striking appearance helps get bonuses. No one even thought of chasing the red wolf away. Everyone wanted to get a look at it. Well, and of course, where there is a wolf, legends about a werewolf will definitely be remembered. Late in the evening on the quiet streets of the Argentine city of Santa Fe, residents noticed a strange creature. For several weeks, rumors had already been circulating around the area about it, until a video appeared that gives you chills. In these frames ahead, you can see a dark figure that crouched low under the trees. It moved as if it was hunting. Its contours were curved, but it can be said unmistakably that the figure looked humanoid. Since pets periodically began to disappear in this area, some linked the appearance of the creepy creature to the mythical vampire chupacabra, and someone claimed that it was a werewolf. And finally, a story about a strange sign at sea. Ghost ships exist and intersect with our reality with some goals of their own. Early in the morning at the Mukilteo Company ferry terminal in Washington, operators noticed that some object blocked access to the dock. In theory, no one should have been there. What was their surprise when the outline of a fishing vessel suddenly emerged from the darkness? Later, it was identified under the name Mary B, and it moored by itself. There were no lights on the vessel. The engine did not make noise. The ferry Tokai was forced to stop because the ghost vessel spontaneously moved toward it. In the video, you can understand that it is heading to the pier purposefully, as if it is controlled by something invisible. Will you be surprised by the news that they found no one on board? The sight of a large vessel that came so close to shore on its own made many think how long it had been drifting in the open sea and what brought it to the dock. Perhaps much in this story could have gone unnoticed. Residents of the city could not believe their eyes. A bright blue beam that suddenly cut through the sky was clearly visible in broad daylight. It glowed so intensely that it lit up everything around. There was no thunder or any source of light that could transmit this beam. There were no events taking place nearby, and there was no military base. Witnesses could not explain its appearance in any way. Although the video attracted the attention of local residents and quickly spread across the internet, an answer to the question was never found. Where did this beam in the sky come from? Maybe you know? In December 2024, residents of the city of Tulsa in the state of Oklahoma noticed how the sky began to send inexplicable signals. Bright blue squares appeared in cirrus clouds, forming a perfectly even pattern. The pattern appeared and remained almost every 20 seconds. It was clear and stable. The person who filmed this video noted that this whole shape looked more artificial than natural. But it did not resemble familiar light effects. There were no drones in the sky, and there was also no information about any show or advertising campaigns. Observers described this phenomenon as some kind of structure above the sky that manifested by itself, without a visible source from which it could be coming. This observation left behind an unsettling feeling that the sky may not be as empty as it seems to us. In the remote wilderness of northern Canada, watching the quiet night sky suddenly stopped being romantic. A group of people became witnesses to atypical events. They saw how a white-blue spiral slowly formed in the sky, expanding outward. The spiral formed a perfect pattern and glowed along the edges, while its center was dark and empty. It resembled the northern lights, but it did not flare up and did not shimmer. At the same time, the air around seemed heavy, almost compressed, as if the entire environment had abruptly changed. Later, officials pointed to the possible presence of rocket fuel in the air, but those who observed the phenomenon in person found this explanation unconvincing. In addition, similar spiral formations were recorded in other parts of the world, but none of them has yet received an official explanation. The author of this video noticed something unusual while standing on a bridge above a busy road. Some indistinct creature or object was moving across the sky. He immediately started filming, but he himself could not determine what was in front of him. What appeared on camera did not look like an airplane or a balloon. A dark silhouette of a strange shape moved slowly, almost gliding in the air. It had tentacles like an octopus, but it is hard to determine for sure whether it was a creature or an object. One thing is obvious. The object looked quite ominous, and to this day, no one has been able to give it any kind of definition. I do not think that some unclean force could so calmly cruise through the sky in broad daylight. But who knows what can be happening if the world is on the brink of collapse? Honestly, I do not know how to describe this mysterious formation, and the residents of the region in China where it appeared did not know either. A clump that looked like a mass of black fog hung over mountainous terrain, and anxious birds flew around it. Is it not true? It does not look like a natural phenomenon or a migration of large flocks. What is even stranger? This clump stayed in the very same place for quite a long time before disappearing without a trace. In fact, it resembles some kind of ancient sorcery, but for obvious reasons, it is hard to believe that, even while watching the video. Maybe we will try together to find a scientific explanation, or at least disprove its authenticity. In the Californian town of Victorville, people went out into the street after hearing a loud noise. It seemed as if a dump truck had thundered across the sky. This sound was not like thunder. It rather seemed mechanical, as if iron machines or ships were grinding overhead. People admitted that the same alarming sound woke all of them up. The police reported that there was neither a car crash nor construction work in this area. But what worried people most was that the source of the sound, by their feeling, was above and not around them. Soon, similar testimonies appeared from other states. All of them described the same character of the noise. Religious leaders claimed that these were not random events and pointed to ancient prophecies, asserting, if the sky breaks its silence, important changes will soon come. The fact that the source of the recording was never found only complicated the task. During a night thunderstorm in Mexico, the author of this video was filming lightning strikes when he noticed something picturesque in the dark clouds. A picture worthy of filming arose there by itself. It was clearly outlined, and the longer the filming lasted, the clearer the image became. Everyone who later watched the recording was amazed at how accurately the heavenly lights and clouds reproduced a devilish eye and an angry grimace directed at the earth. Experts called this pareidolia, a phenomenon of the psyche, when our mind itself finds images and picks out patterns where there are none. And while the storm continued, this frightening face hung in the sky, as if the wind could not scatter it. If we put skepticism aside for a moment, then we can turn to ancient texts. They often mention that the sky sends us alarming signs in troubled times. On the Chantang River in the Chinese province of Zhejiang, a unique wave appears. If you watch it during the period of the autumn full moon, it may seem that the water flows unnaturally. The wave forms atypical curls that shimmer in the sun's rays like fish scales. The tidal bore here is considered one of the largest in the world and is called the Silver Dragon. But the most remarkable thing is not even that. There's also a round formation there, similar to a giant eye watching the shore. People call it the Dragon's Eye. Precisely because of this place, the water behaves differently. Scientists explain the phenomenon by the special structure of the terrain when the tide of a large mass of water entering from the East China Sea is forced to fit into the narrow funnel of the river mouth. In some regions of Mexico, residents trembled with horror when a glowing, fiery silhouette suddenly appeared high in the sky. Before it formed, the area was shrouded in loud, echoing sounds that spread like dull explosions. Someone compared these sounds to trumpets. The ground vibrated while the strange sound spread through the surroundings. When the fiery circle appeared, it looked like a ring suspended in the air. It was visible well enough. Many took out their phones and began filming the unusual phenomenon. And by the way, this was not the only report of such sounds. Earlier in California, something similar had already happened. In this video, we also see an incomprehensible circle engulfed in flame. It appeared in the sunset sky. It was not lightning, and the circle did not go out along with the setting sun, but simply stayed hanging, scorching the clouds. Its edges flickered as if something was breaking through from the other side. This really looks strange. People on the internet tried to explain it as an atmospheric phenomenon. Others claimed that a mystical sign appeared in the sky. Whatever it was, it is obvious that this ring does not look at all like the effects that nature usually creates. A tourist explored the beauty of the Swiss Alps. He was filming stunning mountain views when he saw a huge golden ring hovering over the horizon. Unlike ordinary clouds or sunset light, the ring glowed evenly and did not move with the wind. On the contrary, it created the impression of a stable construction suspended in the sky. The tourist filmed this on video, noting how unnatural this event looked. Some online commenters called it the Swiss portal. Most viewers perceived the circle as something otherworldly or alien. There were also attempts to chalk what was happening up to a rare atmospheric phenomenon. But the witness insisted that the wheel looked like something controlled, as if behind this heavenly installation there was something or someone. A passenger on this flight became an observer of a large fire from the airplane window. He was high above the city and could clearly see the entire blazing panorama. Of course, the man took advantage of the opportunity to film such a large-scale spectacle. But suddenly, amid the curtain of fire and smoke, he saw something dark appear in the frame. A huge figure moved through the smoke, and it seemed to hover in the flames. Its giant wings opened and flapped. Several times the figure crossed the glowing background. It was impossible not to notice it, and then it suddenly disappeared into the darkness below. The passenger was in shock. Perhaps he did not believe his eyes, but there were other witnesses with him on the flight. In the end, we have this video. How would you comment on the black shadow? A man was looking out of the window of his apartment at the evening panorama of the city, when suddenly a bright glow in the sky attracted his attention. It immediately seemed unusual to him. Several bright spheres hovered high in the night sky, emitting a steady white glow. The lights did not blink like airplanes and did not flare, and at the same time they made no sound. While the man continued recording, the spheres began to move together, smoothly and in a coordinated way, drifting through the clouds along the same trajectory. Their movements seemed purposeful, not random, so he dismissed the thought of natural phenomena. There was clearly something else here, do you not think? Above Manchester Airport, one of the busiest air harbors in the United Kingdom, a black sphere appeared that behaved in a special way. Pilots are trained to recognize such phenomena, and they described it as an opaque, dark ball that appeared straight out of the clouds. It made no sounds, left no exhaust trail, it had no wings, and there were also no visible systems nearby to keep it in the air. The object descended as if guided by an air traffic controller and lowered not far from the runway, as if it knew exactly where it was heading. However, as we can be convinced from this video and the testimony of witnesses, even military aircraft that were nearby could not catch up with the speed of its movement. So what was it? In North Carolina, observers described glowing twin spheres. They silently glided across the night sky. One was blue and the other was red. At first, people thought these were airplane lights, but then the spheres began moving toward each other, until at one moment they merged into one and completely disappeared. Everything happened in complete silence. As you understand, no one left comments, and this silent mystery only intensified the feeling of unreality of what was happening. But you and I can comment on what we saw. All hypotheses have the right to be heard. Unidentified objects were filmed in the sky over Shanghai. In the video, we observe how a huge glowing object silently hangs over the city, leaving a white light trail along the line of the horizon, while 3 smaller lights move behind it along the line of a clear circle. The way this object behaves rather demonstrates control than random movement. However, officials denied information about the activity of drones or other aircraft in this area. Curiously, a few days later, similar footage appeared from the city of Perth in Australia. The distance between these two places is quite large, so it is hard to ignore the similarity of the two observations. If these objects were not created by humans, then an unsettling question arises. What is capable of appearing and flying in the sky over large cities without warning? In one of the cities in China, residents dropped all their affairs and hurried to film numerous glowing spheres on video. They appeared in a large cluster in the night sky, right above their heads. The light dazzled, and the movement stunned observers. Just imagine that a group of celestial objects is purposefully and silently moving straight at you. They did not scatter chaotically, but shifted altogether, keeping distance. Observers described this moment rather as a synchronized event than a chaotic fall. No one had a feeling of celebration. Rather, the observation caused bewilderment and anxiety. What is interesting is that such objects continue to appear and are recorded in different parts of the world, and each time they leave the same question. What exactly is moving above us, and why is the media not talking about it? The author of this video was simply filming the night sky when he suddenly saw a powerful stream of light. At first, it slowly pulsed, then became brighter, leaving behind the feeling of something unnatural. After a few seconds, a silhouette in the shape of a disc appeared, and suddenly the light inside it began moving across the sky much faster than any drone. Its movement was definitely a controlled flight, not free fall, but at the same time it was not accompanied by sounds or blinking lights like airplanes have. Later, experts tried to explain the speed and shape of this phenomenon. At that moment, observers felt that in front of them was not just a flying object, but rather some kind of maneuvers. It appeared, watched something, and then disappeared from view. All we can do is guess what it was. Residents of a small town froze in place when the evening sky suddenly flooded with red light. The glow spread across the clouds. It flared up and faded, flickering in short impulses. This red flicker did not resemble lightning or a sunset. Its frequency seemed controlled, as if the sky was active by itself. Many stood outside, silently watching what they could not explain. If we recall prophecies, then a red sky promises us nothing good. They spoke of a final warning about the end of the world. Whatever the cause of this light was, it was hardly an accident. At the very least, you and I can claim that this light definitely did not come from fireworks or a thunderstorm. When the airplane was at cruising altitude, a passenger looked out the window and saw something strange. Beneath him was a dense layer of clouds of a deep orange, even almost red color. They resembled molten lava and spread across the entire sky. This was not an ordinary sunrise, and not a reflection of sunset rays. The light seemed steady, intense, and unnatural. The man began filming, and then the clouds began to look even more like the glow of a fire that was raging everywhere on the ground. Of course, such a sight could not help but be alarming. After the flight ended, the author of the video shared it online. The clip quickly spread, and viewers called it "Fire in the Sky." There were those who linked these clouds to ancient warnings, when harbingers of global upheavals were supposed to be red skies. Be that as it may, when you see something like that from a height of 11,000 meters, it becomes clear the sky is no longer predictable. In Sudan, people went outside and saw a sky that completely stopped being familiar. It turned a sharp orange color, as if the sun had gone out, and a strong wind raged everywhere. Movement in the streets stopped. Neighbors gathered together, not understanding what was happening. Many felt fear that was much stronger than curiosity. Some also linked this moment to religious warnings about signs in the sky, and claimed that this was not a random change in the weather. But what worried people most was how suddenly it happened. Driving at night past the Egyptian pyramids, a man noticed glowing objects behind the ancient structures. 4 bright spheres slowly and synchronously rose upward, completely blocking the space. They illuminated everything that was below. At some moment, the spheres aligned, then merged into a pair resembling 2 glowing eyes. They seemed to watch everything from above. The video became popular online, but there are still no answers as to what the mysterious lights really were. In California, a man went outside under a clear sky, when suddenly a strange smoke curtain formed right above him. The cloud appeared instantly, without wind and without any sounds of an approaching storm. The cloud remained in place, dense and unnatural. Then he started recording and zoomed in, trying to understand what he was seeing. Suddenly, inside the smoke, through small holes, bright points began to shine through, resembling lights. It was clear that there were no airplanes or satellites in the sky, so no one could find any explanation. Before anything could become clear for us, the recording ended. Maybe you have encountered something similar and can comment on this lonely cloud? On the 10th of December 2024, a helicopter pilot flying over Colorado captured something inexplicable. Fiery flashes were falling from the sky to the ground. But they behaved not like meteors, but were like glowing traces that moved evenly and synchronously, as if they were being controlled. The pilot's video quickly spread across the internet, giving rise to theories that this might not be a natural phenomenon at all, but something entering our atmosphere. An invasion, what else can you call it? This video was recorded in the evening on the 7th of January, 2025, in the Chinese province of Hebei. People noticed a bright object quickly sliding across the sky. A large glowing sphere silently hovered over the city, moving above the houses. Residents rushed outside to film it. The luminous sphere clearly moved purposefully. It was not a falling celestial body like a meteorite. In Mexico City late at night, witnesses captured an astonishing event on camera. They noticed a giant triangular object in the sky, hovering high above the ground. On its body, in a strange rhythmic order, bright lights flickered. It seemed like silent signals. The video recording turned out clear and almost ideal, so you can rule out manipulation with effects or an optical illusion. There was clearly something else there. Naturally, the triangle in the sky left everyone with more questions than answers. In Indiana, one of the most incredible events ever captured on camera happened. You have definitely never seen anything like this anywhere. Imagine that the sky above you began to flicker like a broken screen. Colors would appear and disappear. They blinked like short flashes of something malfunctioning. There was no wind, no sound, only this chaotic glow overhead. Then, the light dimmed and darkness fell. That silence brought no relief. It hung heavily in the air, leaving everyone with the same feeling, as if something in the world had gone wrong. Galilee is a historical region in the north of Israel, on the border with Lebanon, and here any mystical incident is linked to ancient beliefs and epic events of the past. So, witnesses of the phenomenon recorded how a giant pillar of glowing clouds rose straight out of the ground and pressed into the sky. It contained no smoke and was not formed by thunderstorm clouds. On the contrary, its shape looked perfectly beautiful, and even despite a strong wind, it remained unchanged. Struck by the spectacle, people filmed what was happening on video, not understanding what was going on. Let us add again that, in this area, everything acquired a much greater meaning than simply amazing weather cataclysms. Rather, the phenomenon was perceived as a signal, as if for a moment something connected the earth underfoot with the sky above. Was it a reason to think about the eternal? Many wonders and mysterious phenomena have been observed in the sky, but perhaps this is one of a kind. More than 10 years ago in Canada, in the picturesque city of Grand Falls, a local resident saw a storm cloud that looked like a human face. Eyes, ears, nose, and mouth were clearly distinguishable. Probably everyone would point to this resemblance. Why did the cloud take such an unusual form? We have two explanations. Either it is a glitch in the matrix, or we ourselves are inclined to draw and think up what we want. Here is another proof that our imagination does its job well. A shop owner was standing outside in front of the entrance and suddenly noticed a cloud that also stood out among the others. At sunset, it was colored a rich orange, when suddenly it took the clear shape of a roaring lion, incredibly similar to a real one. Witnesses felt as if the very atmosphere around them had changed. There was something special in this vision. Ordinary clouds would lose their shape after a few seconds, but this did not stretch out and did not fall apart. It stayed in the sky for several minutes, while people nearby stopped with their heads raised to get a better look at it. The clarity and plausibility of the image puzzled many who saw it later on the footage. Especially concerned were those who are familiar with ancient symbolism associated with lions in the sky. The lion is a sign of fiery energy, greatness, and triumph, reminding of victory over the monster and the establishment of order. And what do you say? Is this again our consciousness, drawing images into the familiar and giving them secret meaning? This video was shot in the resort town of Destin in northwest Florida, and it also raises questions. At first glance, it is just a pelican, but if you look closer, it seems as if its feathers are too transparent. It really is translucent. If you have ever overlaid two videos, even in the simplest editor, you will understand that one of the layers can be made more transparent. But here, everything seems to be in its place. So, what is the secret? Maybe you can explain. At first glance, everything in this episode looks normal. A fan was filming his favorite player from the national team of Jersey celebrating a victory. The player ran across the field with his arms triumphantly raised. But if you carefully watch the replay of the video, something strange catches your eye. On his jersey, the number 18 was clearly visible at first, and a few seconds later, the number 21 appeared in the same place. How could this have happened? The game was not interrupted, and we understand that all this happened in a matter of seconds. There was no player substitution or any other tricks here. The person is just running, and the number on his uniform changes by itself. Now we will reveal the secret of how some glitch effects are made. Let me try to explain. While cleaning an aquarium, a man noticed something strange. He drained the water, but the fish did not end up at the bottom with it, but remained near the surface, calmly swimming as if nothing had changed. It seemed as if the aquarium was still full. How could it swim through the air if there was almost no water left? The video confused many viewers, but here comes a possible explanation. There were two aquariums placed close together, and due to the lighting and angle, this separation is not visible. In the tank that was behind, the water was indeed drained. We can see the chain moving. And in the front one, the water remained. So for the fish, nothing new happened. It is a simple optical illusion. While driving through the fog, the driver nevertheless noticed something unusual by the roadside near a lone tree. One branch seemed to be hanging in the air separately from the tree. It was no longer attached to it, but it was not touching the ground either. When the car slowed down, the branch slowly rotated in the air by itself. But as soon as the observer drove past and looked back, the movement stopped completely. The strange thing is that the branch turned out to be where it shouldn't have been. Have you ever seen objects suspended in the air that moved without any visible reason? Or will you say that he imagined it? This might make you think about how well we know the laws of physics, and whether all of them have been discovered yet. In the kitchen, a family was cleaning up the dishes. Everything was going as usual, until a fork got stuck in a bowl in the most incredible way. Only the end of its handle was touching the dish, and the rest of it seemed to be floating in the air. Witnesses immediately recorded this strange effect and posted the video online. However, neither the authors of the video nor the viewers knew what had happened there. Was it a paranormal phenomenon, a glitch in the Matrix, or just a trick with a fishing line? Another object suspended in the air. On a clear afternoon, a man stopped at a red light and looked up. He immediately noticed something inexplicable in the sky. A helicopter was directly above the car, but its blades were completely motionless. It seemed to hover in the air, but it continued to shift relative to objects on the ground. That is, it was moving. But how is that possible with a non-functioning rotor? After a few seconds, the blades did slowly begin to rotate, but too sluggishly to correspond to normal operation. And this absolutely did not match the helicopter's stable position in the air. We all understand that without the movement of the rotor, the machine cannot fly. It would fall immediately. Who can explain this phenomenon? Did anyone figure it out? A man was filming the ocean when something incredible appeared above the water. Clear outlines of buildings manifested in the sky. They seemed to float above the horizon and were located right on the clouds. The contours did not move or disappear, and the longer the filming lasted, the more unnatural the scene became. Such moments try to break your psyche. When your reality does not load properly, you have to come to terms with a state of affairs that seems completely out of place, or try to explain them from a scientific point of view. Has anything like this ever happened to you in your life? And here's a very recent story. On the 7th of January 2026, tourists were filming the wall of a canyon in Colorado. Suddenly, they noticed something that shouldn't have been there. A structure resembling a massive golden door was embedded in the vertical cliff of the Black Canyon. One of the commentators claimed that it belonged to a secret ritual cult, asserting that the door was used to drop something into the forest below the cliff. Other viewers suggested that it might have been built for the elite of ancient local tribes, and the stairs or access paths had long been destroyed or eroded. What do you think about this? I dare to add that the door looks quite new. Only if it was made of pure gold, it could continue to shine brightly even hundreds of years later. This video captures some object that flew into our orbit and crashed to Earth, but no one knows what it really was. At first, only a small sphere of white light was visible in the distance. It seemed to be approaching the ground because the object became larger and brighter. Finally, the sphere fell to the ground in the distance, and then a dazzling flash of light illuminated the entire sky, as if something massive had exploded. After that, darkness returned, and no one ever shed light on this incident. If you have any thoughts, share them in the comments below. During an Arctic expedition, a group of researchers noticed something strange shimmering in the ice. They dug out a spiral-shaped object from the permafrost, from which emanated a bright and rhythmic purple light. Its flickering was like a digital glitch when a screen flashes. This object or organism was located in the middle of the void in perfect solitude. The spiral continued to pulsate by itself, standing out sharply against the background of the white snowy desert. It was less like an object of natural origin, rather resembling an active device, but we know nothing more about it. Maybe you know? No one could explain what happened in this eerie video footage. A couple was getting off a motorcycle when suddenly something pulled the girl down. She tried to resist, but an invisible force unnaturally dragged her along the ground. Even when the guy tried to pull his girlfriend back, he could not free her from the death grip of an unknown origin. Although he held on tight, despite all his efforts, an unknown entity abducted her. It's a pity we didn't see how it all ended, but I don't think you'll say that computer effects were used here. Sitting in his car, a man noticed a person on the street who immediately caught his attention. His figure seemed frozen in place. His leg was extended forward, his body was leaning, his face remained motionless, and even the bag in his hand wasn't swinging. Seconds passed, but nothing changed. Cars were driving by, the street was going about its business, and the man seemed frozen in the middle of the sidewalk, as if time had stopped only at the point around him. Perhaps we are witnessing a displacement in time, when a person is already in another dimension, and we see only an imprint, an image of the last moment when he left our reality. And here, we have an answer. If people are thrown through time, they should suddenly appear somewhere in an unsuitable place. A street surveillance camera recorded a man who was calmly walking along the road and noticed nothing unusual on his way. Then, unexpectedly, a lying girl appeared in the snow on the street right under his feet. She was dressed inappropriately for the weather. The man instantly reacted to the obstacle when the figure appeared next to him. It all happened too quickly to call the video a computer trick. Who knows, maybe the camera captured something it wasn't supposed to see? On a relatively quiet street in Vietnam, something happened to the lighting. The light along the road began to flicker very quickly and brightly, not due to electrical problems, but in some special rhythm. The person who captured this flickering on camera remained motionless, but at some point it seemed to him that what was happening was repeating. He had the feeling that the same moment was stuck in a loop. The impression of abnormally flowing time kept growing. Could some global glitch in time and space have occurred in this place? What do you think? Could this be exactly how time slips happen when people are transported to other eras? A woman decided to turn her yard into a playground for children and installed a trampoline there. But one day, she saw something that made her blood run cold. She looked out the window and it suddenly seemed to her that an invisible creature was jumping on the trampoline. The surface was mysteriously lowering and rising, as if a ghost was bouncing on it. This paranormal phenomenon continued for more than 3 hours. The homeowner was so shocked and frightened by what she saw that she decided to remove the trampoline. What do you think? Was it the wind, excessive suspiciousness, or otherworldly interference? And again, invisible beings on the swings. A man and his wife were driving home on a windless evening. They were passing by Cheeseman Park in Denver when they stumbled upon something eerie. Empty swings in the night park were swinging by themselves, as if a ghost was sitting on them. Frightened, the man stepped on the gas and drove away. But to their horror, further on they saw other swings that were also swinging back and forth in complete silence. They captured this moment on video, but no one could help them explain this eerie phenomenon. In every city, there's a place with a bad reputation. In this town, no one dares to pass by the outdoor gym after dark because at night it comes alive. Every evening, the exercise machines start moving by themselves. Local residents say it begins right after 10 o'clock in the evening, and it creates the impression that invisible bodies are using the equipment. Those who did decide to pass by this place late in the evening heard strange voices. But even more disturbing is that in the neighboring park, witnesses observed empty swings, swinging as if someone invisible was sitting on them. And wouldn't you be afraid to go there and find out? Cemeteries and hospitals are the most frequent places attributed with poltergeist phenomena. In China, there is a hospital where every working day turns into a nightmare for the staff. This bad place is located in the city of Nanning, and the nurses claim that they constantly encounter ghosts. Judge for yourself. Every day, water taps turn on by themselves, patients see things that others do not see, and sometimes digital scales light up even when no one is standing on them. But the most terrible thing happened on the 20th of March, 2024. Two nurses ran down the corridor in horror, looking back as if something was chasing them. They were so frightened that one of them tripped and fell. Even scarier is that the tables with equipment also moved by themselves. Later, the nurses said they saw what was pursuing them. They were translucent figures, but the cameras did not capture them. The most alarming thing is that these facts are only a few of the inexplicable phenomena they have encountered. Probably, this hospital has some old, blood-curdling history. The story of this wedding salon in the city of Chihuahua is known to everyone in Mexico. In its window for more than 80 years, there has been a mannequin of a bride in a wedding dress who is called La Pascualita. It has been on display since the 25th of March, 1930, and still attracts tourists from all over the world, not only for its beauty, but also for its frightening realism. The smallest details of the face and hands look alive. And here, in these shots taken by one of the tourists, we see as if the mannequin's eyelashes trembled slightly, and its gaze suddenly focused. Are you feeling creeped out too? No wonder, because local legend has it that this is not a mannequin, but the embalmed body of the former owner's daughter. The girl died from a spider bite on her wedding day. Yes, now you understand where the plot of Corpse Bride came from. That's Hall, Mexico. This video from the Vatican gave eyewitnesses goosebumps. A crowd of tourists gathered in the square in front of the cathedral when suddenly the viewer's attention was drawn to a silhouette on the upper gallery. There stood a tall, dark figure, wrapped in long black robes. Its appearance was eerie and resembled the personification of death, silently watching those below. People in the crowd watched it with bated breath and whispered among themselves. But the figure did not move or disappear. Some believe it could have been a thematic installation. I think in the Vatican, no one would joke with such a performance for sure. Discussions continue, but the video recording conveys an otherworldly presence so frighteningly that viewers cannot look away, as if chained to this terrifying character. If dark, sinister figures appear somewhere, then their antipodes must exist as well. In a small chapel, something unexpected appeared on a surveillance camera recording. During a crowded religious ceremony, the faithful bowed their heads in prayer. Suddenly among them, a barely noticeable, translucent light figure appeared. It sat quietly behind the others. Unlike other people, it had no shadow, and it remained unnoticed. No one looked back at the strange, misty silhouette. The figure did not move or react to what was happening. It simply was present there for some time. Someone hypothesized that it was the spirit of a recently deceased parishioner who returned to prayer, or someone's guardian angel watching over the crowd. In any case, the video shows that among us, in various places, certain entities appear that may either haunt or protect the living. Miraculous phenomena in places of worship of higher powers are more of a regularity than an exception. The low quality of this video is unlikely to be convincing proof that Jesus actually exists. It will rather give skeptics additional arguments. But let's see what happened in the cathedral. I will add that the person who filmed the video insisted on its authenticity. At first, he himself didn't believe it either. So, he is filming a statue of Christ when suddenly the statue slowly raised its eyelids, and for a moment it seemed that it was looking directly at him. A moment later, the statue returned to a state of rest, but this small movement was enough to understand that something unusual had happened. The video sparked much debate online, and perhaps some of those who previously stood on the side of skepticism were visited by doubts, and those who believe that Jesus can give us signs became even more strengthened in their convictions. Well, whether it's a miracle or advanced mechanics of ancient masters, if it helps someone, then why reject it? One afternoon, while a traveler was filming the altar in a cathedral, something unusual happened there. The statue of Jesus remained almost motionless, but suddenly, its eyes came to life and moved. A second later, the statue's lips also began to move, as if uttering some message. Then the statue just as quickly froze, motionless. Those who saw the recording were amazed. Some interpreted the event as a sign of the imminent second coming of Christ, while others threw up their hands in ignorance. This video attracted a lot of attention. Firstly, it's hard to explain. What do you think? Was this movement performed by some medieval mechanisms inside the statue, or by the hands of a skilled visual effects artist? At a church service, a priest was reading prayers, and parishioners were quietly filming what was happening on their phones. At first, everything looked normal, but when viewing the recording, people noticed how the statue of Jesus was slowly lowering its arms. The movement was slow and looked intentional, as if they were receiving a blessing. The video quality is, of course, not the best, but clear enough to understand that the statue's hands were shifting relative to the angle behind it. For those who witnessed this moment, the phenomenon was an unusual and powerful sign. Many of them admitted that they felt a divine presence. During a religious performance, several statues of saints were placed on the stage. Naturally, they were supposed to be completely motionless, but one figure suddenly behaved differently. The statue slowly turned its head, and this movement was distinct enough for the audience to notice it. People in the crowd were stunned and asked questions. After the performance, theater staff confirmed that the statue was carved from a single piece of wood. There were no wires or mechanisms inside. Its movement remained inexplicable. Even if you didn't believe in anything, such incidents leave our minds in a state of suspension. After all, everything was captured on camera, and denying the movement is impossible. Not just one person saw it, but hundreds. We all understand that neural networks can do all sorts of things now, but let's take into account that all these stories were recorded relatively long ago, and back then, there wasn't the possibility to alter video drastically. This mysterious moment occurred in 2016 during a busy Catholic festival in Mexico. The statue of Jesus, which was being carried through the streets during the parade, seemed to come to life. The crowd suddenly froze in amazement. People noticed how the statue's head began to turn from side to side, and the figure blinked, as if surveying the crowd. The moment was brief, but clear enough for many to realize its reality. Moreover, it all happened during a festive celebration. This cannot be dismissed. Surely the event made many people think about what else interesting might happen, regardless of whether we believe in God or not. This old video captures a prayer service in a small, unknown chapel. A visitor focused the camera on a statue of the Virgin Mary. At first, everything seemed normal, but then the statue's eyelids gradually began to open, and for a while, its eyes opened fully and seemed to look directly into the camera. This lasted for a few seconds, after which the eyelids gently closed again. But even a few moments were enough to be sure that something extraordinary was happening. Has anything like this ever happened to you? Write about it in the comments below. This happened in Paraguay. A woman was home alone when she heard a quiet whisper. She followed the sound and realized it was coming from the altar of the Virgin Mary that her family venerated. A small statuette was placed in the house. When she grabbed her phone to record a video, she saw the statue's mouth moving. It was opening as if it were speaking. But the movement stopped exactly at the moment she got closer, as if the figure was signaling her to keep her distance. This incident shocked her to the core. She tried to capture at least part of the miraculous phenomenon on video. Yes, it seems impossible and even absurd, but as you can see, for someone it becomes completely real. Do you think the woman could have been hallucinating, or do you also discern something strange in the video? This fantastic episode was filmed in California, near the Sierra Nevada range. On the 22nd of August, 2025, something amazing appeared in the clouds above the small town of Bishop. A local resident, looking up, saw some cloud formation and couldn't believe his eyes. It was a real Jesus. The silhouette was so clear and the figure's pose so perfect that people were truly amazed. Even the necessary detail was present. Around his head was a halo that glowed softly in the sunset sky. The clouds themselves formed into a mysterious image woven in the sky. How can one simply call it an atmospheric anomaly? Maybe it really is a coincidence, a play of light and wind, or maybe it's something impossible to explain. In any case, this magical moment turned an ordinary day into something unforgettable. The clip begins with someone casually filming the sky, but what appears in the clouds amazes everyone. This luminous image resembles a humanoid figure that seems to be standing at full height. The story caused a real stir on the internet. People argued whether it was just an illusion of light or something meaningful, some kind of projection, or perhaps someone watching us from above. This happened in the town of Fairfax, Virginia. A woman was approaching her home late in the evening and for a moment looked up at the sky. What she saw left her speechless. Above an ordinary residential street in the darkness, a mysterious formation of light and shadow was visible. 3 straight lines stretched across the sky, with the central line being wider than the others. From the ground, it looked like a floating path. Who knows? Maybe it was a portal opened by someone on purpose. A surveillance camera at a quiet office building captured something unreal. A glowing sphere appeared in the premises. It gradually became very bright and pulsating, as if keeping its own rhythm. The sphere glided silently through the rooms, observing something, then suddenly left the frame and disappeared. After a few seconds, the sphere returned and continued to study the space from a different angle. It looked exactly as objects of extraterrestrial origin are described, as if they appear from another dimension. Even the atmosphere around them seems different. Scientists send human-made technologies beyond Earth's orbit. Why not assume that the inhabitants of other planets are doing the same? For example, last year the sky over New Jersey was suddenly illuminated by a mysterious light. Late at night, a bright blue flashing light filled the entire sky. The strangest thing was that soon, many glowing spheres appeared within sight, so many that it was difficult to count them. The most amazing thing is that these objects were not falling meteorites. The spheres did not move, they froze in place like a freeze frame, and no one could find an explanation for this. In 2018, residents of the capital of Jordan, Amman, observed an unusual creature hovering high in the sky. At first, the object looked unreal, but when the video author zoomed in, it became clearer. It had a round shape like a jellyfish, and tentacle-like appendages extended from the dome. Even its movements resembled the contractions of a jellyfish in water. But where would one come from in the sky? Maybe it was an alien spaceship or some extraterrestrial creature that came to spy on us. A pilot recorded one of the clearest UFO sightings in recent times. During a flight above the clouds in Colombia, he noticed an unusual object gliding across the sky. It wasn't darting about, didn't look like debris or a conventional airplane, and moved smoothly. But here's the problem. Its shape didn't resemble any aircraft we know. The pilot filmed this, and after the recording hit the internet, people couldn't tear themselves away from each frame. Still, we cannot say for sure what kind of object it was. Near a busy cafe, people suddenly noticed something strange hovering in the air. It was moving like an airplane or a drone. It was a silent flying object with tiny lights flickering on it, faintly glowing against the evening sky. After a few seconds, everyone took out their phones and began recording the mysterious spectacle, which seemed unreal, but at the same time turned out to be true, because we are seeing it too. It's an ordinary flying saucer, isn't it? Viewers in a cinema were watching the screen when suddenly something astonishing appeared between the seats. A radiant figure materialized there. Its light was unbearably bright, and its appearance was out of place. Some froze in horror, others stared at it, and someone took out a phone and recorded it on video. The recording suddenly cut off, so we never found out what happened next, who or what it was, and why the figure appeared. Nevertheless, it left an indelible impression and probably haunted the dreams of everyone who saw it that day. 3 years ago, people witnessed unusual behavior on a subway train. They were shocked to see a woman hanging from the train's handrail, holding on with her hair. Her entire body weight was suspended, held only by her hair tied to the handrail. From a distance, it looked like sorcery, and when subway employees approached to ask what she was doing, the woman introduced herself as Dorina, saying she was an acrobat, and she was using public transport to rehearse her circus act, known as hair hanging. She had been training for several months for her performance at the Shanghai Circus, and although the stunt looked risky, her composure and confidence amazed many. Apparently, she needed an audience, which is why she went to rehearse in the city. In this video, 2 women are hanging upside down, walking on the ceiling. It seems like a perfect hoax. The video author mentioned in the description that they are his sisters, who are interested in practicing magic, and they asked their brother to film their antics. However, there are moments here that do not align with the laws of physics. If someone possesses the art of walking on the ceiling, why didn't their dresses turn upside down? Logically, they should have fallen down. What do you think is really happening? Is it a fake room or some other trick? In Arlington, Texas, a man filmed a video that looks like an optical trick, but the longer you watch it, the stranger it becomes. In the yard, there is a red car, but as soon as he shifts a little, so that the car is reflected in the glass of his porch, and in the reflection, the car is already white. And not only the color changes, the logo looks different. The license plate differs. The car's details do not match. The most logical explanation is that somewhere nearby there was another white car, and at the right angle, its reflection seemed to overlay the red one. But the author of the clip never said whether there was any white car nearby at all. But in fact, that's how it was. For some reason, the author didn't notice it, and for him, it was something mystical. Imagine, you're on a boat off the coast of Vancouver. Night, only the sound of water and the dark sky above your head. And suddenly, the sky lights up. Just above the horizon line, a bright horizontal band of light appears, as if someone turned on a gigantic lightsaber right under the clouds. It slowly moves across the sky, absolutely silently. No thunder, no explosions, nothing that resembles familiar flashes or lightning. After a few seconds, the light goes out, and everything returns to ordinary darkness. Such lights are usually explained as accidents on power lines, meteors entering the atmosphere, space debris falling, rare types of lightning. But in this case, none of the standard explanations matches the shape and behavior in the clip. What it was remained a mystery. The Romanian Hoia Baciu forest has already been nicknamed the Bermuda Triangle on land. Ghosts, strange voices, people disappearing. And recently, one more story was added to that list. One tourist stumbled upon a hole in the ground in the forest. Deep inside, a bright orange light is visible, and heat noticeably rises from within, like from an oven or molten metal. The traveler noted that it was exactly in this place that sensors recorded abnormal electromagnetic spikes. The combination of heat, light, and such readings made him think, what if this is exactly the source of all local anomalies? Viewers in the comments immediately dubbed this hole an entrance to the underworld. But there was no continuation of the story. The tourist never posted new videos from this place. On July 29, 2025, a man walked into a Catholic church and decided to linger inside a little. And that decision gave him an encounter he is unlikely to forget. In front of the altar, on its knees, stood a brightly glowing white figure. No face, no clothing details were visible. Just a human silhouette, entirely made of cyanide. The man decided that maybe he was imagining it, and turned on recording to check himself. At that moment, the figure straightened up and turned toward him. The feeling was such that the words, "This is an angel," asked to be spoken. He stood a little longer, then quietly turned around and left. The being did not come closer, did not pursue, and did not try to give any signal. Over the last few years, snow in some US states has begun to cause people not just joy, but travoga. Many noticed that it looks and feels not like normal snow. People took a lump of snow, held a lighter to it, and saw a strange picture. The snow did not turn into water, but blackened like plastic, and hardly dripped. Scientists explained, real snow, when melting, can absorb some of the water inside. Soot remains on the surface from the flame, so it turns black. Because of this, an illusion is created but to it burns and does not melt. But those who with their own hands tried to set fire to snow in the yard looked at these explanations with distrust. It smells like plastic, and it doesn't melt. The Great Pyramid of Giza has always been a magnet for theories and mysteries. But one short video took the discussion to a new level. A man was driving past the pyramid and noticed 3 bright white spheres above its Vershina. They hung right above the pyramid, as if scanning something. From that angle, it was unclear whether they appeared from behind the pyramid or descended from above. 2 large spheres moved absolutely synchronously, as if controlled by one mind or working like a linked pair. The third stayed a bit to the side, but also did not fly far away. At some point, the man simply drove off, without waiting to see what would happen next. A man checked into a cheap hotel in Transylvania, returned to his room in the evening and decided to wash up before sleep. Turning on the faucet, he saw something that literally made him recoil. A gusty black liquid was flowing from the faucet, with a consistency resembling tar or used motor oil. Yes, water can darken because of iron or other impurities. But this was not just a slightly yellow or brown actinic. This was almost perfectly black, thick something. The man filmed everything and showed it to the administration. They responded quite calmly that this happens once or twice a day and usually passes quickly. But the guest decided not to check whether that was true and left, never finding out whether it was a system malfunction, old pipes, or something that should not appear in drinking water at all. Flagstaff, Arizona. 3 friends decided not to go to the New Year's fireworks and stayed home. The decision to spend the evening calmly turned into them, seeing something that, possibly, they were not supposed to see at all. When the whole neighborhood was at the celebration in the park, a train with bright blue containers passed along the railroad. Through the walls of the containers, lit from within, silhouettes of giant creatures of a strange shape could be seen. They did not look like people, nor like familiar animals. Some kind of elongated ones, with unclear protrusions, with unnatural bends. The friends could not believe it was just a play of light, and the scariest thought that comes to mind. If everyone had gone to watch the fireworks, nobody would have noticed this train. For residents of Medellin, Colombia, this day definitely stood out from the usual schedule. On February 5th, 2026, at about 1 in the afternoon, an unusual flying object appeared over the city. It had a strange star-like shape. Sharp rays spread from the center, like spikes. People looked up, trying to find at least some comparison. Is it a drone? A new satellite? Someone's toy? But the most disturbing thing, from the point of view of ordinary aviation, such a shape is not suitable for flight at all. It violates all ideas about aerodynamics and stability. Nevertheless, the object calmly hovered over the city for about 20 minutes, and then slowly flew away. In California, a man was returning home and saw a creature on the roadside that looked like a dog. But the longer he looked, the more unnatural the scene seemed. The animal had a strange posture, an elongated muzzle, movements that were jerky, broken. And the scariest thing, it made sounds that more resembled the jalabne meowing of a cat. A dog that meows. That alone is enough to put you on alert. When the man decided to come closer, the creature suddenly lunged and rushed toward him. Luckily, he managed to jump back and run away. In the city of Warren, Ohio, a man decided to go out for a walk at night. He couldn't sleep, and very quickly he realized he wouldn't sleep for a long time. On the wall behind a park bench, he noticed a clear shadow of a sitting person, but the bench itself was empty. At first he decided he simply didn't see well, and started filming on his phone to make sure it wasn't a play of imagination. On the recording, everything is absolutely clear. An empty bench, and behind it, the shadow of a person, sitting and slightly leaning forward. The realization that you are looking at a shadow without an object, to put it mildly, does not dispose you to a calm walk. The man turned around and quickly went back home. This clip is rewatched again and again, and it is still hard to understand what is happening. In the video, a piece of wood hanging in the air several meters above the ground. It doesn't just hang, it slowly moves, smoothly shifting forward, as if carried by an invisible potoque. No ropes are visible. The wind is weak, not stormy. Even if you imagine that the log got caught on some wires, its movement still looks too smooth and independent. It creates the impression that the wood itself broke the laws of gravity. A man named David Johnson was walking to work, and in the distance, noticed a woman. At first, everything seemed ordinary, until he realized that she was standing in a stepping pose, but not moving. One leg raised, hair in a ponytail frozen in the air, as if there had been wind at that moment, which suddenly disappeared. She did not move at all. David filmed her for a few seconds, not believing his eyes. Then the woman, as if on command, came into motion and walked on, as if nothing had happened. No explanations other than the joking, "someone's animation froze," were ever producible. Residents of Anchorage, Alaska, were stunned when they saw in the sky a plane with an advertising banner that seemed to be simply hanging in one place. Usually such planes fly slowly but steadily, so that the banner waves nicely. In this case, it seemed that the aircraft froze in the air, and the banner stretches behind it like an image in a game. However, here physics did find an explanation. With a strong headwind, a situation can occur when the plane's forward speed is almost equal to the wind's backward speed. From the ground then, it seems that the plane is hanging in place, although in reality, it is fighting the flow. So sometimes even the most frightening-looking footage turns out to be just a very vivid lesson in physics. Around this clip, even those who usually don't believe in mysticism at all still argue. Someone in Miami early in the morning filmed a dark figure in the clouds. The silhouette resembled a person in a cloak, an elongated body behind something like a fluttering cloak or cape. The figure seemed to be walking on the clouds and then gradually dissolved. The author claims that he saw it with his own eyes and that this is possibly a divine being that only a few are allowed to see. Viewers split. Some are sure it's editing or an optical illusion. Others believe the footage is real and we saw something from another world. The phrase "everything's bigger in Texas" got new colors when a woman came out of a store and saw something under a car. Under the nearest vehicle lay a creature very similar to a cockroach, only monstrously large. By the shape of its antennae and legs, it really resembled an insect, simply enlarged to the size of a small dog. The woman kept repeating that cockroaches aren't that huge. Well, at least not on this planet. Fortunately, this monster lay on its back and did not move. But the realization that such sizes are even possible for a long time kills the desire to look under cars. On the road to Wadi Rum, not far from the ancient city of Petra in Jordan, a tourist noticed an unusual shape among the rocks. Between the stones stuck out a figure that strongly resembled a huge seated person, looking toward the road. A head, shoulders, even folds like knees. All of this scladavulus into one giant, as if petrified in time. Of course, geologists will say that it is a product of erosion and imagination. There is even a term, pareidolia, when the brain sees familiar faces and figures in random shapes. But the fact that this figure was so pohoja to a person made many viewers think, what if legends about giants who lived thousands of years ago are not that far from the truth? In January last year, a woman from Dallas heard a loud rustle in a tree in her backyard. Deciding it might be a raccoon or a bird, she went out into the yard with a flashlight and pointed the light at the crown. And then something happened that completely knocked her out of reality. The beam of the flashlight created the shadow of the tree. Not on the fence, not on the house, but pramo in the sky. Upward on the clouds or on something that looked like a shapeless gray background, a clear silhouette of branches appeared, as if the sky is not emptiness, but a solid surface. Agree, you can get a shadow only on a Twerdiah plane. And here's the strangest clip of the entire compilation today. The one after which you want to re-watch the world a little more attentively. In Puebla, Mexico, a bus passenger filmed a car flying in the air. The vehicle was not suspended on a crane, not hanging on wires. It hovered above the road, moving over a dense stream of cars. And it was not an isolated case. After the publication of this clip, other residents of Mexico began posting their videos. In them, cars flew through the air, overtaking traffic, as if using an invisible traça in the sky. Yes, you can predpolegate that these were drones with bodies shaped like cars, or some Hitri constructions. But in one of the most discussed clips you can see, the hovering car moves right above real traffic, with no visible quadriplanea and no platform. Agree, after something like this, it is already hard not to ask yourself the main question. And if our reality really sometimes glitches, how many more such bugs do we simply not notice? One tourist, obsessed with the mysteries of ancient Egypt, was walking across the Giza Plateau and filming literally every centimeter. And suddenly, on the side of the Great Sphinx, he noticed a hole that looked very much like an entrance. He couldn't get closer. The passage was blocked by a bright laser beam. A red line cut off the way inside, like in a futuristic movie about secret vaults. The man decided it was part of a modern security system. But the question that immediately comes up for everyone who has seen this footage sounds simple. What is inside there? Rare artifacts? A closed research zone? An ancient chamber that they prefer not to talk about to the general public? Especially strange is the fact that most people are hearing about such an entrance for the first time, even though the Sphinx is one of the most studied mysteries on the planet. In front of you is one of the most discussed TikTok videos. In the frame, A woman who simply throws a ball across the room. Nothing unusual, until the ball stops in midair right in front of her. It doesn't fall, it doesn't hit a wall. It's as if it runs into an invisible barrier, lifts slightly, and with enormous speed flies back, as if it was thrown back in response. In the video, it looks like there is an invisible creature standing in front of the woman that caught the ball and tossed it back. Skeptics are sure it's editing. But those who believe in the paranormal pay attention to two details. The ball's shadow on the wall moves naturally, without strange jumps. The woman's reaction is too lively and genuine for a cheap setup. Who to believe? It's up to you. But the clip really gets under your skin. In March 2025, it seemed to residents of Texas that someone turned on a giant screen right above their heads. At around 10 in the evening, people noticed a glowing square in the clouds. Its edges were lit with a soft orange light, as if someone carefully outlined a piece of the sky with a marker. The square was too even to look like a random cloud shape. It was seen in several cities at once, and everywhere it held for several hours, slowly dimming, but not turning into anything familiar. What was it? A rare atmospheric effect that we still don't know about? A projection? Or the outline of something enormous, hidden behind the clouds? Late at night in Spain, a man decided to take a walk and passed by a house that had long been surrounded by rumors. They say a woman once died there, and since then the apartment has been empty. Looking up, he saw a strange scene. From a high balcony hung a swing, and on it sat a figure that looked like a woman. From his point of view, her face seemed to be missing, just a dark silhouette. Frightened, the man took out his phone and started filming. He knew that this floor had been closed for several years. And then, both the swing and the figure disappear literally in a fraction of a second, as if someone turned off the image. The man screamed and ran away, not even finishing the video to the end. And you know what? Hardly anyone would blame him for that reaction. In Dubai last year, exactly at midnight, two fiery spheres appeared in the sky. At first, they tried to write them off as meteors or space debris, but the behavior of the objects made everything more complicated. Instead of falling down, leaving a tail behind them, they circled around each other, almost like two ships in a dance, and at the same time left faint trails of smoke. They hung in the sky for about 10 minutes and then simply went out, like lamps being switched off. Neither a meteor nor a satellite falls like that. And to this day, not one official version has explained what those fiery partners were, appearing exactly at the moment the year changed. In West Yorkshire, England, a man was driving home from a cafe and noticed a person on the roadside who looked as if he was stuck mid-step. One leg raised, the body slightly tilted forward, a pose that is incredibly hard to hold for a long time. But this person did not move at all. The driver even slowed down and kept filming. As the car drove past, the figure stayed in the same pose. Yes, you can say someone was on strong substances. But even in that state, the body would still sway, fall, or change posture. Here, the person looked exactly like someone had been put on pause. Imagine that you are looking outside for your daughter's little tricycle, thinking that someone simply took it away. A man went out into the yard, didn't see the toy, and decided it had been stolen. He went out to the street and saw it, riding by itself. The tricycle was moving along the road without a child, without an adult, without any visible push. The wheels were spinning, the pedals were turning, as if someone was pedaling. There was no wind, and the slope of the road was too slight to explain such movement. The man waited until the trike stopped, came up, picked it up, and then simply threw it away. After something like that, you don't want someone invisible riding your child's toy. Two friends decided to walk deeper into the forest, not far from their neighborhood. They expected just an adventure, but got a scene that sends chills down the spine. On one of the trees, they noticed a patch of bark that bulged outward and formed a human face. Eyes, nose, mouth, everything was recognizable far too clearly. The bark bulged as if the face was trying to break out of the trunk, but froze halfway. You can, of course, chalk it up to quirks of nature and imagination. But it doesn't get any easier from the realization that it still looks like a scream stuck inside a tree. In 2017, a man was driving through the Uinta Mountains in the state of Utah and noticed among the rocks a dark opening, inside which the features of a gigantic face could be made out. It looked as if an enormous head had stuck out of the mountain and was simply watching the passing cars. After he posted the footage online, specialists explained it with the same pareidolia, the brain's tendency to see familiar images in random shapes. And maybe that's exactly what it is. But it's not easy to get rid of the feeling that some ancient stone giant is sitting inside the rock, simply waiting for its time. Here's another reason not to like going outside at night. In Malaysia, a man took out the trash late in the evening and, turning across the road, noticed a figure standing on its knees. The creature rhythmically struck the ground with its palms, as if performing some strange ritual. Instead of turning around and leaving, which probably any of us would do, the man took out his phone and started filming. When he came closer, the figure lifted its head and stared pramo at him. He tried to slowly back away, but in the next second, this entity seemed to be instantly next to him, closing the distance almost without movement. After that, on the recording, the man doesn't talk, doesn't scream. He only quietly repeats that he didn't do anything and just wants to leave. After some time, the figure disappears. But after something like that, it's hard to calmly walk to the trash bin in the dark. Last year, residents of Chicago witnessed a spectacle that breaks logic. There were two moons in the sky. One familiar, larger and brighter. The second, paler, smaller and slightly to the side, but quite distinguishable. As if on purpose, around the same time, people from other cities in the USA began posting similar footage. Experts hurried to explain what was seen with optical effects, reflections, refraction of light, lack of clouds, filming peculiarities. But for many, such explanations sounded too convenient. Again, they said optical illusion, and the question is closed. Meanwhile, the videos kept gaining views, and people argued, did we really see a strange atmospheric effect? Or that evening, did they show something over America that we are not supposed to know about? This clip can easily be called one of the creepiest ever recorded by a doorbell camera. A resident of Jacksonville, Florida, woke up in the middle of the night from a notification. Motion detected at the door. Opening the recording, he saw a vague human figure on the porch, more like a pillar of smoke that had taken the shape of a person. The silhouette stood completely motionless for a while, and then began to change, spreading downward, crumbling, and in the end, completely disappearing. This definitely does not look like an insect on the lens, nor like an ordinary glare from headlights. If this is not editing, then explaining what was seen from the standpoint of familiar optics is extremely difficult. If a rainbow is supposed to be an arc, then what do you call what residents of Salem, Massachusetts saw on July 28, 2024? A bright, absolutely straight band of light appeared in the sky, stretching almost from horizon to horizon. The colors, like a rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, and so on down the list. But the line was strictly straight, without the familiar curve. There was no rain that day. No obvious conditions for a rainbow to appear. And the strangest thing, the band held in the sky for almost 3 hours. Someone tried to explain it as a rare type of atmospheric phenomenon, but most people simply asked one question: have you ever seen anything like this? Who would have thought that an ordinary playground at night could turn into a scene from a horror movie? In Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, a man decided to take a walk late in the evening and passed by a familiar park. And suddenly he noticed that 2 swings were actively swinging, as if someone was sitting on them. There was nobody around. The wind, almost zero. The trees stand completely motionless. And yet the swings were swinging quite strongly, as if someone had just pushed them. The only explanation that comes to mind in such a moment sounds simple. If it's not people and not wind, then it's someone else. The man quickly put his phone away and hurried home. The first video looks like a classic trick, until you realize there is no explanation for it. On an old, clearly not modern recording, you can see a man who is walking on water. More precisely, he isn't walking, but literally hovering, about 30 centimeters above the surface. He moves forward completely calmly, as if walking on a floor. No straps, no jetpacks, no suspension system. Someone in the comments writes, "If he were held by cables, he wouldn't have such a relaxed posture. The body would behave completely differently." The clip looks too old to simply write it off as AI generation. No data about the place and time, only the footage. And him, confidently sliding above the water. Look, that shimmering thing. It's disappearing. What is that even? On February 16th, 2026, residents of one neighborhood in Florida saw a bright blue ball of light that literally appeared out of nowhere. There was so much light that it lit up the whole block, like a flash from a huge spotlight. The object moved nervously and chaotically. It jerked sharply in different directions, changed trajectory, behaved in a way an ordinary drone simply cannot. After a few minutes, the ball began to blink, smoke poured out of it, and then it suddenly shot straight upward and disappeared into the night sky. So what was it? An unaccounted experiment? A new type of technology? Or something that we simply do not yet know how to describe at all? In the town of Millsboro, Delaware, a man looked out the window, and for a minute, simply couldn't believe his eyes. In the yard, around an ordinary manhole cover, dozens of cats lined up in a perfectly even circle. They walked along this circle for almost 2 hours, as if someone had put them on an endless loop. At first, the man decided it was a coincidence, but curiosity won. And the next morning, before dawn, he went out again to check the manhole. And he saw the same place. Only now the cats were not walking, but standing motionless, forming the very same circle. They stood like that for about 3 hours, and at one moment they all dispersed at the same time. What do you think could have attracted them like that? A smell? A sound? Something underground? Or something that simply does not fit into familiar logic? Imagine, an ordinary evening, 2 girlfriends are sitting, having dinner, laughing at some joke. One of them laughs, and in the middle of the laugh, freezes. The smile gets stuck on her face, mouth open, eyes empty, the gaze as if past the other girl. She turns into a living doll with a stretched grin. The second friend calls her by name. "Hey, are you okay?" Zero reaction. A couple of seconds. That's tolerable. But when 10, 15, 20 seconds pass, a real feeling of horror appears. And then the girl suddenly unsticks, as if someone pressed the continue button. She finishes the phrase, laughs, as if nothing happened. To this day, neither doctors nor acquaintances have given this a clear explanation. A mini seizure, a brain glitch, hypnosis, or another example of how time freezes around a particular person. Something very strange has been happening with animals lately. First, everyone discussed clips of birds frozen in the air, and then a clip from South Korea appeared. In it, a cat standing in the middle of the road, as if nailed to the spot. People gather around it, but it doesn't react at all. It doesn't look around, doesn't move, doesn't try to leave. Usually, a cat freezes when it is stalking prey. The body is taut, the gaze pinned to one point, every muscle ready to spring. But here around, nothing. And then a second cat comes up nearby. It looks at the first, and itself freezes in the same pose. 2 living creatures completely switched off, with no visible reason. Agree, this looks more like not animal behavior, but a glitch in some common program by which they live. Once late at night, a man was closing his warehouse. He was already about to turn off the lights and leave, but out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something strange in the air. Right in the middle of the room, literally out of nowhere, a shimmering spot appeared, perlevaющееся with all colors. It didn't hang like a flat glare. The shape constantly changed, sometimes stretching, sometimes compressing, as if the object was alive. The most convincing part, there was a clear shadow on the floor beneath it, meaning it's not a reflection, not a camera glare, not a play of light on glass. The man started recording. This glitch lasted about 20 minutes, an eternity for such a phenomenon, and then smoothly dissipated, as if it was simply turned off. It looks like the moment when someone lifts the texture of reality, lets us peek behind the scenes, and then neatly closes everything again. Sometimes it feels like our planet really needs a reboot. In October last year, dense clouds gathered over Paris. It would seem an ordinary picture. Now it will start raining. But something strange started. It rained in only one place. Right over a narrow section of road, a dense rain fell from the clouds. But everything else around, sidewalks, buildings, neighboring lanes of the road, remained absolutely dry. Passersby began looking up in search of another reason. Maybe there's a pipe leaking somewhere above the road? Maybe a helicopter? A plane? No. The water was clearly coming straight from the clouds. In the video you can see, the asphalt is wet only on a small rectangle. Everything else is perfectly dry. As if someone turned on the rain function in test mode on one section of the city to check whether the system works. Yeah, it's again. Do you see that? Wait a second. A parking lot is the kind of place where you can see anything. But something like this? Definitely not every day. A man had just come out of a store when a bright ball of light appeared in the air, right in front of him. It looked like a clump of electricity. The edges trembled, the form constantly shimmered and changed, like a living organism made of energy. In a moment, the ball dissolved. The person who filmed it posted it on Instagram, hoping to get a clear answer. And then something interesting began. People from other states started sending their videos. One such ball they filmed on a farm, another ended up on a doorbell camera recording, a third on a street camera. Different places, different cities, but the objects, as if from the same batch. This clip looks like someone pressed pause on the entire sky. In Portugal, people noticed an airplane in the sky that seemed completely motionless. It didn't fall, didn't turn, it simply hung in one spot. Onlookers stood and watched, asking themselves the same question. How is this possible? Airplanes don't fly like that. There is a scientific explanation, an effect called motion parallax. If an object is far away and you yourself are moving, sometimes it seems like it almost doesn't shift. But in this case, the airplane was too close, and the illusion should not have been that strong. What was it really? A tricky angle, a rare combination of wind and trajectory, or something that truly looked like a glitch in the rules of the world? On February 6th, 2025, exactly at 9:45 p.m., residents of Mumbai saw something in the sky that no local weather had prepared them for. During a thunderstorm, a bright glowing ring appeared over the city. It didn't stand in place. It quickly descended, as if something gigantic was entering the atmosphere. But before it could get close to the ground, it simply disappeared, leaving behind a dense, dark trail similar to a trace from powerful engines. Meteorologists explained everything as a rare atmospheric effect. Conspiracy theory lovers claimed this could have been the work of an engine system of some craft. Versions on both sides sound logical, but there is no single answer to this day. A man from Ohio went out for groceries, but instead of an ordinary walk, he got something that makes your hair stand on end. Right in front of him in the air, at eye level, a bird froze. It hung in one point, not flapping its wings, not changing posture, not moving a millimeter. Yes, sometimes birds really can look motionless when they hold position in a strong headwind. They simply hang in the flow. But here, there was no wind at all. The trees stand motionless. The grass doesn't move. Nothing around suggests that any tangible flow is blowing. After a few seconds, the bird suddenly wakes up, makes a few wing beats and flies away, as if nothing unusual happened. A small moment that does not fit into familiar laws at all. Residents of Saudi Arabia witnessed a spectacle that you can't call anything other than impossible. In January of this year at sunset, people saw two luminaries in the sky at once. One was brighter and larger, the second was a bit dimmer and smaller, but still clearly visible. People went outside, filmed, discussed, called neighbors. Look, do you see that too? When both luminaries went below the horizon, the footage spread across social media. Experts began explaining what was happening with a phenomenon called a sundog, when, because of ice crystals in the atmosphere, bright spots appear on the sides of the sun. But those who saw the clips with their own eyes noted, everything looked not like reflections, but exactly like two separate suns. So, friends, our long episode is coming to an end. If you liked it and you want to watch something else interesting on our channel, then subscribe to the channel and write something nice in the comments to promote this video. By the way, you can write the keyword rocket in the comments. That way I will know that you watched all the way to the very end. Thank you all very much for watching, and next, watch one of the 2 videos that have appeared on your screen. They are insanely interesting.